In this video, we are going to look at SAP Fiori app recommendation analysis report, which is a part of SAP Fiori apps reference library. So we are going to take a look at how we can use this report, the Get SAP Fiori app recommendations report. And we're going to see what all are the prerequisites and what type of information is needed to generate this report. Now, with this report, you can identify the SAP Fiori apps that best fits your needs. And this tool bases recommendations on app relevance and readiness. So what that means is, meaning, right, for example, what relevance in this case means is, so relevance describes the SAP Fiori apps that are relevant for your for you based on the business processes you use. And the readiness describes how ready your system is to use these SAP Fiori apps. Okay, so the analysis provides you with information such as which Fiori apps are relevant for the business processes you use, which Fiori apps that are already installed and can be used without a system update, information based on information about SAP Fiori apps that can be used, assuming a software update or database migration. Okay, and also the installations such as plugins, add-ons that are required in order to use certain Fiori apps. So the report uses a list of transaction codes that is uploaded into the Fiori apps reference library. We'll go through the steps of doing that, based on which the Fiori app recommendation analysis provides a list of Fiori apps that fit the business processes you use. Okay, so in this report, you can also check the readiness of your environment by providing a list of installed software component versions. Okay, so the report will show you whether or not all required components are for the Fiori apps are installed in your landscape, or it will display the missing product versions required for installing the SAP Fiori app. Now, to use this report, there are four things you need to do. Okay, there are four, let's say, prerequisites. Okay, so first thing is when you go to Fiori reference library. Okay, so from here you need four things with you, right? One, for running this Fiori apps recommendation analysis report, you will need a S user ID. Okay, that is your SAP Service Marketplace user ID. Okay, and you will need to use it to log into the SAP Fiori apps reference library. Okay, and after logging in, you will get a wizard that will take you through the steps of generating the report, and that that wizard will guide you and through the steps required to perform the relevance and readiness analysis of your environment. Okay, so the list, this report will need a list of transaction codes, which is called the usage profile. I mean the transaction codes that are used in your system. So if it's a greenfield implementation and you want to use this report, then the role matrix that you define, you probably need to use that. If it's a brownfield implementation, which means the systems are already in place, you're just migrating from ECC system to S/4HANA. In that case, you already have the list of transaction codes that have been used, and you can use it in you can get that list in a different ways. Like, you can ask the basis team to give you a report from ST03 or ST03 and transaction code. Another way would be, you could take EDR underscore T codes of active roles that are actively used. And maybe, the third way of doing it is you can manually compile the list of this list by yourself. Okay, you can manually create that list. But one of the prerequisites is for running this, using this report is to get a list of transaction code, which is in the usage profile. Okay. Now, after that, you will also need to provide what is called a system profile. Okay, which is basically your system details of your front-end system and your back-end system, right? Meaning what components are installed in your in that particular system, right? What add-ons, what plugins, and all. So you'll need to provide that information also for this report. And then finally, you will also need to give a name to the report, okay, for this analysis report before you run the report. So now let us go and through these steps in a little bit more detail. So the first thing that you need to do is you go to Fiori Apps reference library and you log in with your SUser ID, right? The service marketplace user ID that you have. Now, if you don't have that, you might want to get it from your basis, request for it, and then get that. That is service marketplace user ID. Now, after you have logged in, okay, with your SUser ID, you will click on this Get SAP Fiori Apps Recommendation button. Okay, so this will start a wizard to guide you through the rest of the steps. Okay, so which steps required to perform a relevance and readiness analysis. So you have two options, right? Once you begin, the wizard begins. So you have two options here. One for displaying an existing report. So meaning if somebody has already, if you have already executed this report, so you can display that report again. And the second option you have is for creating a new analysis report. Okay. So in this video, we'll go through the steps of creating new analysis report. Okay. And like I said, once you click on step 2, wizard will guide you through the steps. Now, the first thing that you need, the first input, right, that this report will need is the usage profile, okay, which is basically the list of transaction codes that are being used in your system. Now, like I said before, right, if it's a greenfield, then you have to rely on what our transaction codes become part of your role matrix for creating the roles. And if it's a brownfield implementation and you're just migrating, and which means you already have the system, transaction codes being used in your environment, you have a history of, you have a log of those transactions, you can get those, you can use that list. Now, like I said, earlier, you can get that list either by using the transaction ST03 or ST03, and you can take in the basis team's help to get that list. Okay, and here, if you see here, I have kind of listed the steps of getting the transaction code list from ST03 or ST03N. Okay. But whichever way you get that list, the list has to be part, should be saved as in a .csv format. Okay. Now you can, like I said, you can create it manually also. You can open an Excel file, enter the list of transaction codes that you want to check for the Fiori apps, and save that Excel file as .csv in the .csv format. You can, another way of doing it is if you have now you can get the active roles in production that are assigned to users, and you can get that list of transaction codes from the table AGR_T codes, and then manually create this CSV file. Okay, so the CSV file in this case should have only the transaction codes, nothing else. So the first row could be the title, and below that you should have the transaction codes. You don't need to have the description of the transaction and all. Okay, but keep in mind the report in this file should be saved as .csv. Okay. Now the next thing that the report would need as an input would be the system profile. Okay, because this report also checks if your system is ready for implementing Fiori apps or not. Okay, so the second input the report will require is the system profile, which is your information about your systems. Okay, which means your front-end system as well as your back-end system. Now, as I mentioned, this is required to check the readiness of your system environment, which is like to check if you have all the required components such as the plugins, add-ons, installed to implement Fiori apps, or if anything is missing. And this information you can get by going through system menu, right? Use system and status. Once you log into SAP backend system, you can get this from system menu, system status. Okay, and then you also save that list as CSV format, like you did for the transaction codes. Okay, so once this is required, you must upload the system profile into the report. Okay, and like I said, another thing you need to remember is SAP HANA system profile again is optional. You don't need to use this. Okay, now once you have the usage profile ready and the system profile ready, you can then run the analysis report. Okay, now we'll go to the steps in detail in the next slides. Okay, so if you see here, there are quite a, based on your report, you'll get the app name, the relevance of the app, the system readiness here. Okay, so in this case, for example, inform my advices or clear outgoing payments. Now in this case, this is student degree requirements, right? Relevance is 3 in this case, based on the system usage profile. And then if you see all the required components from a readiness standpoint, all the required components are already installed. So which means this app can be used in the environment. So let us go in details now for each step. Now, like I said, after you log in with SAP S-user ID and the marketplace user ID, you click on Get SAP Fiori Apps Recommendation button in the Fiori Apps Library screen. You get 2 options, and from this point on, the wizard starts. So we're going to use Create New Analysis to create a new report. Okay, so you have 2 options here. Okay, so once you create, when you click on step 2 and come to the next screen, so here in the step 2, you have to select, if you want to display an existing profile, you can take, pull that report, select that profile from this drop-down field, drop-down box, or if you want to create a new one, you click on the Update New Profile button link here. Okay, so once you do that, you get a screen. If you go up, let's go up one more time. Okay, so not here. So you get this box. Okay, it's an empty box. Then you fill in the name of the usage profile that you want to create. Now keep in mind that the name should not have any spaces. Okay, so I used an underscore here, for example. So name cannot have spaces. And then in the file name, because this is a usage profile, under the file name, you select the file which contains your list of transaction codes. Okay, and the third field, you enter a note for this profile, the description for this usage profile, this report basically, kind of. Okay, now if everything is good, the transaction, the profile will be loaded, uploaded into the system for the report. And what system also does is, if it finds any transaction codes that are obsolete or irrelevant, it will filter them out. So if you see here, in this case, there are 4 transactions out of 163 transactions that were not processed, as they are invalid. Okay, so the system, when you upload it, it will do the filtering of obsolete transaction codes from the list. So this is our list, right? So the list is going to be like this. Your usage profile file transaction code list will be in this, like this, in this format. So you have the title, in the first row, and then below that you have the transaction codes. After you have uploaded the usage profile, the usage profile is created. Okay. Then you go to step 3. And in step 3, you have to upload the system profile. Okay, for checking the system readiness. So if you see here, you have 3 items, 3 fields, 4 fields actually, that you need to fill in. The 4th one, HANA system profile, is optional. It's not mandatory, so we are not going to use this. So analysis of your backend system, right? What product are you analyzing this for implementing Fiori apps? In our case, we are doing it for S/4HANA, so it's in the drop-down list. And now you need to specify the system profile for your front-end system as well as the back-end system. Okay, now because this is a new one, we are going to use the upload new profile button. Okay, now in the front-end system profile, click on upload and you select the file for the front-end system, and upload new profile for against the back-end system. You select the back-end system file. Okay, and HANA, like I said, is optional. We're not going to use it, so we'll leave it alone. Okay, and all of these files, remember, these have to be in .csv format. So when you click on upload new profile against the front-end system, SAP Fiori front-end system, front-end system profile, you get this box. Okay, wherein you specify the name of the system profile for the front end. So, and then you select the CSV file for the front-end system, that is your Fiori system. In database, we're going to select a HANA database, and then you specify the node, okay, for the profile. And if the data format in this file format is okay and is good, okay, everything, then you get a message saying upload is successful, and then you'll find that the system profile that you specified you'll find it under front-end system profile. So after the front-end system profile is uploaded, the next thing you need to do is to upload the backend system profile. Okay. Now you need to repeat the same. You'll repeat the same steps that you did for the front-end system profile. So you're going to upload the system details of the backend system again by clicking on that upload new profile link. Okay. So again, you're going to specify the name of the system profile. Again, you should not have spaces. Okay, because when I tried it earlier for the transaction usage, so I got an error because I was using spaces. So for that point on, for the names, I don't use spaces. I just put underscore, okay, to separate the words. Now, then you specify the file which contains your backend system details, okay, which is, in our case, let's say, it's for HANA, right? So we have all these components installed in the system. So this list is coming from system status, okay, in SAP system. You can download it from there. So you have to specify these components that are installed in your environment, in the backend system. And then you specify the HANA database as a database and give a note for this particular system profile. And if the data in the CSV file is proper, is good, the system profile will be uploaded successfully into the report. Okay, so you get an upload successful button, message. Okay, and this is how it's going to look after when you say okay, this is the screen you get. And the last step, when you click on step 3, is you'll get this screen, wherein here you have to give a name and description to the report, and then click on the Get the Fiori App Recommendations button. Okay. Now, you don't need to do this if it's your actual data. You can create those files and run a simulation also. Okay, so basically you can run a simulation analysis based on transaction codes or software components, and that you will have in your system landscape. Okay, futuristically also you can do this, and you can run relevance and readiness analysis separately or together to see what SAP Fiori apps will fit your future usage and system profiles. So basically, if you're doing a greenfield implementation, you could still use this, okay, for simulation purposes, assuming what components you will end up having in your environment, what transaction codes you'll be using. Based on that, you can run a simulation also with this report. Okay. Now, after you click on this Get SAP Fiori Apps Recommendations button, after a few seconds, you will get the report. So the report is displayed with the relevance score, which basically tells you which app is important, okay, based on your transaction code usage. Now the system readiness, status, summarizes whether or not the required software components are installed in your landscape based on the selected system profiles for your HANA product suite, meaning front end, back end, and HANA system. If you're including HANA database system also into this. The results of the analysis will show an overall installation status, that is, installed, partly installed, not installed, kind of a thing, status, as well as the detailed status per system. So to view the corresponding installation information, you can hover over the installation status. Okay, so this is how you get this box. Now let us try to understand, what the relevance codes mean, right? All this 3 bars, 1 bar, 2, 2 bars, what do they mean? Now, level 3, okay, rating means that the SAP Fiori app is highly relevant for you because it directly matches a transaction code that you're already using. Okay, so in this case, this is a transactional Fiori app, and which is manage payment blocks. And this is relevant. This app is highly relevant because it is a direct match with the transaction change vendor. Okay, FK02. So in the usage profile, the transaction code list file that we uploaded, FK02 was in it. And based on that usage, the report is recommending that you can implement this particular app, transactional app. Okay, so this is based on, so the relevance is based on the system, transaction code usage in your system. Okay. Now, with the relevance, score of 2 or 1. Okay, what this means is, so the Fiori apps, these Fiori apps, right, which are under 1 or rating or 2 rating. So these Fiori apps are relevant for you because you're using transactions from the application area that the Fiori app belongs to. So in this case, you didn't find a specific transaction code, but but it found some transactions within this application area mm_PUR, right? So in this example, so transactional Fiori app monitor purchase requisition items has a relevance score of 1 because you are using a transaction that belongs to the application area purchasing mm-PUR. But this report was unable to find a direct match for the transaction code, direct match of this app to a transaction code. Unlike in this case, for level rating 3, where it found a direct match between the app and the transaction code FK02. So in case of relevance 1 rating and 2 rating, the report did not find in this case a direct match of the app for the transaction code. Okay. So the level of rating, 1 or 2, depends on the proximity of the transactions to the application area in the application component hierarchy levels. After you have done this, you can also, once the report is generated, you can also download the report. So at the bottom of the report, you'll have a download button and you can download the report, which will look like this once you download it. So you have the Fiori apps ID, which you can use for finding the app details in the Fiori apps library. You'll have the roles to which this particular these apps are applicable. Okay. You have the app description, whether what's the app type, whether it's transactional fact sheet, analytical, and then the device type it is it is compatible with desktop, smartphones, tablets. The relevance, then you have the relevance score. Okay, then it talks about the system readiness here. So basically, you can also filter this report and see you can only filter it by installed. Okay, and see what are those systems, what are those apps that can be implemented as is, right, with what components you have at the moment. So this is a kind of a report that you get. You can download the report after you have generated it. Okay. And finally, these are the resources, reference resources. This is an SAP help link for this particular report. And the SAP, the Fiori reference app library, right? There is a spot where you can download this PDF document. This is a nice document. So I picked up certain points from this document also. So this is a nice document to go through. So you can search, you can directly paste this, type this URL into your browser and download the report. So this finishes the, this video about how to use or how to generate this Fiori apps recommendation report. Okay, from the Fiori reference library, apps reference library.